My name is Jonas, and I've worked in the Copenhagen bar industry for about 10 years now. Working my way up from bar backing at a very busy little lively neighborhood bar in Nørrebro called Kassen, and now head bartender at Mash Penthouse. So through the way, I think I've seen a lot of the places in the city, both inside and out. And I now am 29 years old and always constantly looking for new and exciting ways to kind of expand my skill set in the bartending world.
And you've been doing so for many years now. You just finished World Class, and for those that don't know, finished in top 6.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, World Class was.
How's the experience with this World Class thing?
Yeah. So there is World Class as a global competition is immense. There's really only a few other competitions that get near it in its scope, and it is still, I think, by far the biggest. We had 63 countries competing, going through to produce 57 finalists.
I read somewhere it's like 10,000 bartenders.
Over 10,000 bartenders were in the competition to start with this year. So yeah, big field of people, and when you can feel it when you go through it, how big of a deal it is. It's very different. I keep trying to remind myself of how the competition started months and months ago, about just sending in a recipe and then finishing off in Miami in front of hundreds of people and live streams going out to the rest of the world. It's just a really surreal experience. And the way you get to travel with it, it's kind of insane, especially when you keep thinking that you're not actually a rock star, you're a bartender, and it's a very kind of modest, low-key job, but then all of a sudden there's glitz and glamour around it, and yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine sometimes you have to remind yourself that you're not a rock star, that you're still a bartender, right?
Exactly. No, I mean, there's some reality checks under during the entire thing, but yeah, it's good to stay grounded, I think, and come home and just take some shifts right away and make sure that it's not just a life about business class travels and.
Yeah, because that's the thing that when you know about World Class, you see people traveling around the world, and you see, like you say, being on stage in front of hundreds of people, and you have this live stream to the rest of the world. So that's like the glamorous side. But what about if you had to describe the last 3 months or 6 months in 3 words, preparing for World Class? What would you say? 3 words. How would you?
Well, in 3 words, it's tough, it's multifaceted, and it's rewarding, I think. So if I can expand those a little, is if you are working as a bartender full time, which is a tough job physically, sometimes mentally, to add something like a competition on this scale with the challenges that they ask you to do, it's almost like working a full-time job next to your full-time job.
Just the preparation.
Just the preparation. At least in the way that it consumes sort of your I think your mindset and your day-to-day. So often you get up earlier in the morning.
Which is not necessarily normal for bartenders.
I wouldn't say that, no. I think it also depends. When I say early in the morning, I mean regular people hours.
Well.
But you still go to bed at 3, 4 in the morning, so waking up at 8 or 9 is not a lot of sleep. Especially when the first thing you do in the morning is try to get hold of some whiskey bottles and start nosing and tasting. And then start your day out like that. Try to get to work before everybody else shows up, so you can have some time alone to do some prep or to try out some drinks without too much hassle. And then still do a 12-hour shift afterwards. It becomes these kind of long draining days, and sometimes you just have to take a day out of the calendar and sleep and just catch up. And it goes like that. For me, I had, before the final in Scandinavia, I had many days like that, and I was so drained. And I took after the finals in Scandinavia, I took 2 weeks off and went on vacation and all that stuff, and came back and I was ready to go. And then it was just one long stretch, 2 months of just work and preparation.
And what does that preparation consist of? Because we know you have to there's the drink that you initially start out with, and then the preparation for the competition itself.
Yeah.
What is that?
So it's the best thing is to take the global final as the example, because it's just a bigger version of what we did for the Scandinavian final. So what they wanted to do is see how you would prepare for that and how you would travel. So traveling is a big deal in world class. The fact that you're not bringing ingredients for one drink, you bring ingredients for many drinks. So you even have to plan the packing and how you're gonna get through customs, and all that stuff has to be part of it. So six challenges you have to prepare for, and they range like the gamut. There's drinks you have to be super creative. There are presentations where you have to be super creative. There's a chance element you have to prepare for. There's a speed round you have to prepare for. Almost all of them involve making drinks. So you have to actually have good tasting drinks that you have made for the challenge to fit the specific parameters. At the same time, you have a whiskey tasting. So the whiskey tasting means a lot of nosing, even quite a bit of whiskey blending on your own, where you try different blends, different ratios of blends, to try to get a grasp on what it means when you take 10% versus 20% of Lagavulin in a blend. What's the difference? How much will you notice? So you're ready when you get a blend to see, like, this I think is a low peated, this is a high sherried whiskey. All these things you have to prepare for as well. And if you haven't been working a lot with it, it takes time. So yeah, that's what you have to make these drinks. There's a deadline for that. And you have to start getting creative right away. You have to start thinking not just about the drink, but how you want to present it immediately. Because if you have to get stuff flown home, and you have to make sure that it works before you submit the recipe, and you have to have a backup plan if it doesn't work, then you have to hit the ground running and start looking through Amazon, looking through eBay, looking through antique websites, going to antique shops. I went to so many antique shops in Copenhagen, looking for whatever to get, like a final serve out.
So you basically spent 2 months preparing for the final, like working two full-time jobs with your preparation and your bartender job as well.
Yeah.
So how was when you finally got there? Because now you've been spending 2 months just preparing, and then when you get there, how do you get all of this preparation that you've been doing? How do you use that to the fullest when you're there?
I mean, there's something about...
I could imagine you get nervous when you see all the other bartenders, and because it is the best bartenders from all over the world, right?
They're really, really, really good bartenders. They're really, really good. There's too many for you to actually even grasp, and you don't get to see all of them. It's only actually afterwards that you realize how many of them put an impressive amount of work into this competition. I knew some people going into this ahead of time, knew they'd done really well in the competition before. I knew that they knew exactly what they needed to bring, so I was kind of keeping an eye out for them. But the results in the end showed that obviously it's all subjective, and in the end there's some points scored for drinks, and everybody can make a mistake. It doesn't matter how secure you are. So you come there, obviously it's daunting. It's just the scope of it. You have this entire beautiful hotel, and the first guy I met going through asking for direction was Bob Nolet. So you have the actual maker of Kettle One, and he's just there to say, like, well, this is my concierge, you can use anything you want here, I have some equipment, and he shows you around and says, oh yeah, you need to go to that room and that room, that's the photo shoot room. And he's like, okay, nice to meet you, Bob. See you around.
I guess I could imagine that's a bit surreal.
It's surreal, yeah. Then Lorena Vasquez shows up, and you're talking to Tom Bullitt, and they're all really nice, and obviously they know your competitors, so they know like this is someone they might want to be working with in the future. They're very interested in what you have to say, how you use their products. So yeah, that scope of it all, you just have to just dive into it, and then it's not like you get an hour to stand around and think about what you're doing. It goes like this. The first 3 days, just like bam, bam. Swooped off to dinner, then swooped back in, given like an hour to go to get your stuff sorted, and then back down for a photo shoot, up sleep now, you have to sleep now, because we wake up early in the morning, go through a 4-hour briefing about everything. The cameras will be here. You know, this is your back of house. This is your second back of house. This is when you pre-stage, when you're on stage, after stage.
It's almost like a movie set, right?
It is, because you have to get 57 bartenders constantly evolving through these different stages. So from that like organizational point of view, it's also kind of crazy, because all of them have their anxiety and their nerves and like showing out, and you have to have a really good team of people to make sure that you take them by the shoulders and say like, you need to stand here now. Okay, calm down. Do what you gotta do.
I could imagine that. Funny thing is, we just spoke before this interview. You said that you were actually planning on doing world class.
No, because I've done big competitions before.
You did the Legacy and
the Cardi Legacy last year.
Another thing is, how do you think that helped you in preparation for world class? I mean, did it help you in any way prepare you that you tried to do a big competition before?
Yes, definitely. Because you know that when you need to, if you don't focus when you need to focus, you're in trouble. If you start, I guess, getting distracted, you're probably going to be in trouble. You have to keep to your game plan you had from home, and you have to constantly make sure that when it's crunch time, you've made it easy for yourself. Don't leave anything for last minute. If you do, you're going to hate yourself for it, because it's always going to leave an ingredient off of a tray. You're going to have an issue. And I think probably half the bartenders ended up having an issue like that in one of the challenges. So it definitely prepares you a lot. And also the fact that you're standing there, not for the first time, with that amount of cameras and press and, you know, bartending superstars looking at you, it does help that this is not the first time.
Yeah. But then why world class?
So I did Bacardi Legacy last year, and I was thinking about doing a time up here where we were just looking to get everybody involved, I guess, and be a little bit like, look at what the bartending world can do. And I thought, well, I'll go do a competition, and World Class was happening at the moment, and I really liked the challenge, and I liked talking to Looney, who was the BA, and I liked talking to a lot of the people in the Diageo organization about basically what they're looking for. And so that's like the first decision, is just to try to do this competition locally. And I didn't go through in the first burst, and then I got super annoyed because there was like a competitor. So I got super annoyed, like, oh man, I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna do it for real. Okay, I'm gonna do twice as much prep, and I'm gonna be ready when next time they call. And I was, and then I went through, and at that point I was like, oh my god, now I'm in it.
And there was no turning back.
There was no turning back. And so I mean,
well,
at that point, you just don't want to disappoint anybody, especially yourself. You know, you just want to do your best, because you already feel like now it's a little bit of a commitment that you've gone through, and they're ready there to help you.
And then from there on, the rest is history. Now we're sitting here, and you just said that you're trying to get back down to normal after this experience.
Yeah.
It took up so much of your energy and time. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends I haven't seen in a very long time, and I have family I haven't seen in a very long time. So coming back I think it's about making sure that I give myself some time to do that as well. Obviously, I feel like here with work, in the weeks right before World Class, I couldn't focus on anything. So I just want to, you know, dive back in, and we're gonna like try to keep molding the bar, I guess. It's just still a work in progress. So that's the mission now, and then obviously dealing with the fact that there are still people that think it's very interesting what happened, and there's a little bit of extra work involved with making sure you answer the phone when a reporter calls, but all of it is it's very low key. It's very back to Danish standards, you know, not too high flying, like just.
Yeah, but also I could imagine just going back to and enjoying just being a bartender in your own bar.
Yeah, that it's hugely rewarding. Just being
no
able
cameras,
to
no nothing,
no
no live streams.
no, and you take all that experience and you bring it to work in terms of how you have an excitement about bartending and about spirits, and you just want to give it to the people that come in. So it's actually a nice thing to come back and be kind of rejuvenated in that way, where you realize how big the world is, and you just want to spread that love for that world.
Because I could imagine.
Maybe it's not Disney.
I could imagine that it would be the other way around. You know, you've been on big stages. There's been live streams. There's hundreds of journalists and reporters and stuff like that. And then you go back to your own bar, and maybe really none of the guests know what you just did. And you're just Jonas. You feel me? Like you're not Jonas in world class. Almost made it to the top 3, or made it to top 6, right? Here you just a bartender.
Yeah, but it's just, you realize, I think after that it's just as rewarding making a drink for Daily Drops as it's making someone you've never met, if you can see that they've responded well to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you can see that they're happy and this is something they enjoy and you put them in a good place, it's the same feeling you get. And so if you go chasing, you know, the superstardom and stuff like that, like it's no different. That was the most uplifting thing. It's like I've just stood there and made a drink for Gary Reagan, and he really liked it, and it was a gin cocktail, and he's famous for being like flimsy about his gin cocktails. He likes his stuff the way he likes it. And then doing the same for a guy that came out and said, I really like gin, what can you make for me? And feeling the exact same way doing something for him. So like that's just uplifting for me, that your career can just be that, you know?
That you can get that feeling out of your everyday job.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about, right? So
It is. It has to be. Obviously, it's about all of our guests in the end, and that's why Gary Reagan walks around handing out penises to people every time someone, you know, starts feeling like, oh, maybe he just needs to know that it's not about taking yourself so seriously. And then he just gives you a little penis, and then he's like, that's a legend, just going like this. Calm down, sir. We're all here for the guests in the end. Everything we do is not for ourselves. It's in the end to try to, I guess, obviously be in a position to give the guests a better experience in the end.
What would you say to the young Jonas that came to Copenhagen 10 years ago, applied for a job in Kassen?
Yeah, I would say go for it. I think just.
Any advice?
Advice to him. Yeah. Well, I don't regret anything that I was doing at that time, because I think for everybody it's about experimenting a little bit, and we were partying and going out and doing late hours in the morning, but kind of fostered a love early on for just the environment around the bar. So I wouldn't even say like be careful with what you do. You'll just say, yeah, experiment and find out if this is something that's for you. You don't know how big it is when you start. You don't see the scope of it, but that just means there's more to explore. Because if you knew everything right from the get-go, it would get really, really like boring, I guess, quite quickly. The fact that you always, when you think you know bartending, when you think you know the bar industry, you discover another level to it. I think that's just fantastic. I wouldn't tell him to go and compete right away, but neither did I. I mean, I looked at everybody else who was much better than I was at the time competing, and I thought they were very cool, and kind of couldn't even envision myself doing it. And it took a few years until I felt like I had any kind of drink making chops to go and try to make a drink in front of my peers. But yeah, do it when the time comes. Do it, and when you lose the first couple of competitions, that's not the end, because everything is a learning curve. Absolutely everything. And every time you do something, you will get better at it. Even this. And I think, yeah, once you win or finish high in the first competition where you do that, yeah, it's a thrill. It's good fun. And then I don't think I don't know how it's gonna look in years to come, but it certainly has grown to a point with the very biggest competitions that it's a bit of a transformative experience as well. Not because of the final event, but because of the work you have to do to get there, which is the biggest relief of all, is actually when it's done and say like, I could do that, which is kind of crazy, but it's, I think with everybody who's undergone a big project, it's just the satisfaction of seeing you actually finishing something. It's really nice. So I would suggest that you do it. If you do a big competition, there's one thing you have to do. You have to expect not to go through it all and just do it for the experience, but you also have to see yourself win it all. There's no way around it. You have to make sure you know what would that mean. Would that be something you'd actually want? Because if you look at a world-class winner, their life is changed forever. Or at least I obviously don't think forever, but they're all still traveling around the world. Aristoteles, the first winner from Greece, his life is completely transformed. Everyone in their own way has completely transformed their life. And are you ready to do that as well? Are you ready to leave and go, hop on an airplane 20 to 30 times a year to go somewhere else to see and promote bartending? You have to be ready. But at the same time, you can't expect to do anything. It's still, everybody else is in the same boat as you, working hard.
That's for any last advice for people who are thinking about going next time in the world class, like hands-on?
Hands-on, really hands-on. I would make sure that when you start thinking about the competition, that you start with tasty drinks. Everything else can be molded, but it's very hard to fix a drink that doesn't taste good, and I'm not going to go through. So before people get super creative and try to get weird or innovative, start with things that are actually tasty. Then you can maybe mold it. Maybe you can try to, maybe this is like, go where you're also a little comfortable, I guess. Stuff you might have worked with before, stuff works. Because we're all looking for innovation, but not at the cost of something being delicious. Weird is not great. It can be, but it isn't always.
That's definitely I think that's good advice, because that's the other way around, sort of.
Yeah.
Compared to how many prepare for it.
When you look, I think one of the biggest problems world class has is when you look at pictures and press releases coming from world class, you normally see pictures of really extravagantly made drinks. Because if you make a drink look really pretty and really new, and you for image it might look absolutely stunning, but you don't know if that was the drink that made someone go through, or if it was a martini served with an olive. It looks good on pictures, but the drink itself might not have been worked through, and maybe it looks good in pictures, but you can't even pick it up. So it's not until you actually see the judges interact with it, you actually know if it's been a success or not. So don't be scared that you don't normally do big elaborate serves. Plenty of the people in the top 12 and the top 6 were doing really simple twisted drinks. That's at least what I was doing all the way through. I started with flavors and everything else, and if I picked a glass where I thought it was nice for it, then that was what I was going for. Other than that, I wasn't going overboard. You'll see probably a picture of someone pouring through an ice block a drink and having it run through the inside and come out on the other end. But just remember that that was one drink and one challenge, and you have to be in all the facets of the game just prepared.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
for participating. Great interview. I'm sure that people can learn a lot from this.
Mhm.